Today we're looking at the IN12 Nixie tube clock with walnut wood enclosure from Millclock, based in the Ukraine. Millclock are based in the Ukraine. They offer a fairly wide range of assembled clocks and thermometers, as well as some kits. We're going to focus on the assembled clock in this review, and it's one of the more simple clocks available from Millclock. They also do 6-digit clocks with GPS, and I'll be doing a review of one of those at a later stage. One point that I'd like to bring up about the kits before we go further. I've seen a negative review of the Millclock kits on YouTube, and I'd just like to put something straight about this. Millclock are absolutely clear about the fact that it's a surface mount device kit, and it's going to take a little bit of skill to assemble it. And the guy that I saw was complaining that the components were tiny, which of course is the way it's going to be with surface mount. They're not going to be big old through hole components. They're going to be surface mount, and that's how you get a small clock in a small enclosure. So if you come across a review of the kit building, please take it with a pinch of salt, because it's not really a fair review. It's a perfectly reasonable assumption to say if you order a SMD kit, you're going to get SMD parts in it. Anyway, we're talking about fully assembled and tested item in this review. It's the IN12, as I said, tube clock with walnut wood enclosure. There's also a dark wood enclosure which is available, and the technical specifications are going to be the same. It's just going to be a slightly different wood on the enclosure. The package arrived quickly from the Ukraine. The shipping costs are part of the price, and it's priority postage, so it only took a couple of days to arrive. It was extremely well packaged, and of course it arrived totally undamaged, and it's well packed in bubble wrap and polystyrene foam, and it can protect the contents of the package from whatever the post service is able to throw at it. When you open up the box, inside the box there's a power supply, so a supplied power supply that comes with it, the clock unit, and a very short instruction sheet, which covered less than half a side of A4 paper. And that's mainly because this is a very straightforward clock. There aren't very many options to set, and it's going to be very easy to set up and get going with. The supplied power supply is a 12 volt 1 amp unit, and it's got an EU plug on it. I don't know what's going to happen about other plugs, but I do assume that Millclock are going to give some options about the type of plug that you want with your clock. The clock itself is very small, and I'd say it's quite a triumph of miniaturization. The front panel, as you can see, is barely larger than the 4 IN12 tubes, with a minimum of spacing between them and a minimum of bezel around it. The depth, front to back, is not a great deal more than an IN12 tube itself. There's 2 buttons. This is the menu button on the left and the setting button on the right, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And this hole here is apparently a cooling hole, but this is only on the pre-production units. The production units won't have this hole, because really there's no cooling necessary, and I can confirm that if I have a look at the temperature. If we probe inside there, this clock has been on for quite some time. 38, 39, 40, 44 degrees, 45 as we measure it. Still creeping up a little bit, but it's certainly nothing very special. It's not a very high temperature, and it's a sign that the electronics is fairly efficient. And as I say, this clock has been on for weeks. This is absolutely the maximum temperature, and it's a 35-degree day here today, so we're talking sort of 11-12 degrees over ambient. So that's pretty good. The case itself is entirely of wood. There's a rather nice logo on the back panel, and the case, as you can see, is quite neat and tidy and quite well finished. The rounded corners and the grain of the wood is very nice, and it's comfortingly heavy in the hand. It's about 160 grams as I measured it, and in between the front digits on the front panel here, there's a tiny flashing neon. So you might be able to see a little bit of flicker on the camera, but that doesn't show up at all in real life. So, general dimensions. As you will be aware, the new unit of measurement that I'm using is a 100-gram Toblerone box, which is 210 millimeters wide, and this unit is about half a Toblerone box wide and about a fifth of a Toblerone box deep and high. So the real measurements are 113 millimeters wide, 44 millimeters high, and 44 millimeters deep. There are a couple of slight problems on this pre-production unit. I wasn't very happy about the gluing. As you can see here, there's some glue around the cable where it goes into the clock, and I thought that was a little bit rough and ready. The other problem, I would say, is the very short lead. It's only about 60 centimeters long, and it means you're going to have to place the clock somewhere quite close to a power outlet. But this is a clock that you're going to put somewhere on a desk or in a bedroom, and I'm sure you'll find a place for it. Another slight issue that I found on this pre-production unit is the back case is glued on. As you can see, there's no screws, and in fact there's no way into the case at the moment. There is a battery in there for the real-time clock, but that's going to last quite a few years. So the feedback I got from Millclock about this was that it would be a good idea to put some screws in there, and they're considering it for the production units. Clearly, inside this clock there's a small surface mount PCB. There's going to be one board about here with the display boards, and maybe some components on the back of that, or another board behind it where the electronics is mounted. So it's a very, very small clock. The operation of the clock is very simple. There is the instruction sheet. As you can see, that's just half a sheet of paper, but the instructions are quite clear to follow and quite easy to follow. This is a clock which allows you to set the date, the time, the year, 12 or 24 hour mode. You can turn the backlights on or off, and you can have the date shown every now and again. And when you finally set everything, it resets the seconds to 0. It's quite easy to set. So at the moment it's 1920 according to the time here, but so we press the menu button once and you can see the LED stopped flashing. That means that we're setting these two digits, the left hand pair of digits, so we can put a different time in there. I will set it back to 1921. And then press again, and the LED comes on firmly. And now you could... Oops. Now you can set the minutes. Press again, and you get to the date. So it's the 20th of June today, so 2006. LED stopped flashing, showing that we're setting these digits. Press again, LED stops flashing and is constantly on, saying we're setting these digits. We don't want to set that, so that's the year, I believe, that we're setting now. So, and the time display format, and 00 is 24 hour and 01 is 12 hour. And then we can turn the backlight on or off. So this is the backlight and this is the show date by default. Oh, and I think we've gone too long there. So let's go through it again. Date. So we can set the day of the month and the month itself. And the year. So it's not 1919. So we have to go all the way around again. All the way back to, I think it goes up to 59. 17, and I like 24 hour format, so we'll leave it like that. Backlight off and show the date, and it goes back, and now you can see the backlight's gone off. It would be nice if the backlight went on and off while you were setting it, but it's not a big deal. So I'd like the backlight on, so I'm going to put it back on again. 21, it's June, 6 month, year is 17, 24 hour format, backlight on, and show date by default. Okay, now the backlight's back on again. So the menu's pretty easy to understand. There's not a great deal of setting up to be done. Now the date and the time that you set will be stored in the real-time clock, and that will continue to count even after you turn the clock off. So it means you can put it away, and when you come back it will still be showing the right time. So there's no option to set the seconds, because as I say, what happens is when you've finished setting up, the seconds are automatically reset to 0 seconds. About robustness of this clock, as I said, it's quite a refreshingly heavy unit. It feels good in the hand. The Iron 12 tubes are super robust. I've never had one go wrong on me. They don't really need all that much anti-cathode poisoning, but every now and again you'll have noticed it spins through some digits, and that's some anti-cathode poisoning, you know, just to keep the tubes healthy. So all in all, this is an excellent little clock. It's very simple, and it's pretty much the smallest enclosed clock that you can make with the hardy Iron 12 tubes. It doesn't have a lot of functions, but the ones it has are dead easy to use and cover what you're going to want for a clock in an office or a bedroom. It's not full of features that you're never going to use. It's got the essential stuff. It has all the essential, it has all the beauty of Nixie tubes, and it's a small modern package in a high quality case. I think it's a little pricey for what it is. It's $160 odd for the clock, but bearing in mind $165, I think. Bearing in mind that comes delivered via priority post. There's one or two little finishing touches which would be nice in the future. So for example, the screws in the back of the case and the slightly longer lead. But apart from that, it's a high quality, uncomplicated, accurate clock. The guarantee you get with it, of course, is a 1-year guarantee, and Millclock will help you with whatever you want on that. So all in all, nice little clock.